That's what I like.
Hey, Eamon.
Hello, Mr. Paul.
How many episodes are we in now? This is about 6 or 7, right?
It just feels like 37.
Yes. You know, and we've had lots of feedback, haven't we?
Yeah.
And we're now using the socials to suggest things and basically get you to tell us what you would like to see or what you would like to talk about. But is it videos?
What would people like to see? What would people like to talk about?
Videos. Video stores.
Video stores.
Films and video. What's your first memory of a video machine? Do you remember when that was?
Yes, I do remember it was. I remember the first program I ever taped. I remember going down to Radio Rentals and coming back with this big silver top-loading machine.
Wow.
And for VHS.
Yeah.
And I sat down and I was so excited because rigged it up and pressed the 2 record buttons. So they sort of went down like clunky, like
that's it.
2 buttons and they recorded. And guess what program I recorded? The first thing I ever recorded on a video player.
I haven't got a clue. Can you just give me a clue?
Space. The Final Frontier.
It was Star Trek.
These are the voyages of the Starship Enterprise. Yeah.
Wow.
It was Monday night. It was 8 o'clock. And Star Trek, the original series. And it was the most magical, honestly, my friend, to actually see and listen to that music from the show and the sound effects playback and have your own version.
Yes.
Was absolutely magical. And I presume the year, my friend, I'm guessing, but I would say it was about 1980, 81.
Yeah. I think you'd be on the money because our first was 1981 and it was a Ferguson Video Star.
Yes.
And that was the one that had the big front and it would go on the top. Really clunky, big, buttons. No messing, huge thing. And
do you remember when the remote control was on a wire?
Oh, yeah. Ours didn't have one. And then that was the second one we had on the wire. My dad, by the way, would never allow us to have remote controls. You know why?
Why?
He said it was too lazy. He said, you're too lazy to get up and turn the television over and what do you want a bloody remote control for? You can get up and just press the button. So I also remember the first thing I ever recorded. And I'd say, can you guess what it is? But you'd never guess. It was the Little and Large Show.
Really?
Yes. And it was on Saturday night. And it was only because we'd got it on the Saturday. And finally, it probably took about 5 hours for us to get this thing working. A bit like when we set up these Zoom things. It's pretty similar. So recorded it. And then on Sunday, I got up and watched, not that I was a fan, but the fact that I could watch Little and Large.
At 7 o'clock in the morning on Sunday.
Yeah. How mad was that?
Yeah, well, it was so different. People just would find it impossible to understand why we would have got a thrill out of watching programs at different times of the day when they weren't scheduled. It was incredible.
Have you ever said to your kids, well, yours are slightly older than mine, but by saying, you know what, you couldn't just choose whatever you wanted. You can't just record stuff. And back years ago were the days when a TV show, and you think how much it would have cost to make a TV show that would only ever be seen once. And that was it, wasn't it? And if you missed it, you missed it.
Yeah, think of how expensive that would be for TV companies making those shows. And therefore, then we started this whole thing where we could record it, but not pay for it. So nowadays we pay for it because we stream them, don't we?
Yeah, that's right, yeah.
And that was free in those days.
I remember there was a TV strike and Flambards. Do you remember Flambards?
I never watched it, but I remember the title.
It was a period drama, and it was that Flambards. I remember it was like set in like the 1920s or 30s. Was it like an airstrip or something? And I remember, I think there was a strike. ITV had a strike, so they wouldn't show any TV shows. So there was nothing on at all. Do you remember that? It was like late 70s. I think it was like a month or so.
Well, that was the strike that broke the unions basically and brought TV AM to the fore, but they started to play Batman in the morning.
Yeah.
Instead of showing studio programs. So that was, I think, was 1980.
Right. Because you never saw what happened because they never ran it again. because it was in the middle of a series.
Really?
So I never knew what happened in the end.
Ah.
So if there's a chance that we could find that
I
out.
would say, Paul, if you asked me to describe what we're talking about, to record programs off air,
Mm.
I think was magical.
Yeah, it was.
I think it was like magic.
It really was. It really, really was magical. Yeah.
Yeah.
So what did you use? Did you just record everything
No, you see,
then?
it's like you talked about there what the first program was I recorded, and that was well thought out. It had to be Star Trek to me because Star Trek was the most exciting program.
So you were careful about what you
Oh
chose
my
for the
gosh!
first
And then I would
recording.
get a label on it, and I would put a label on the VHS tape.
Yes. Yeah.
Let's say Star Trek, Series 3,
Yeah.
2, whatever. So yeah, and I really genuinely thought that was magical.
I wonder how many people have still got, because I think we've all got somewhere,
Do you know what?
loads of VHSs
Yeah.
and not have a clue what's on there.
Yeah. I remember getting some out of the garage, 10 years ago.
Yeah.
And they were moldy, they were dusty, and they were all sorts of things like that. So whether they would ever play, I don't know, but they were there. Yeah.
Did they have a video machine at school when you were at school?
My word. Well, you see, I left school in 1978, and I think that was before all the innovation and whatever happened. And if they did have one, it would have been a big clunky monster. It would have had to be said. But we didn't so much have videos at school. We had reel-to-reel cine film.
Oh, yeah, we had those. I remember that at primary school.
If it was a biology film or whatever it is, it would have been set up on a reel.
Oh, right. Because I remember the only cine film or those reel-to-reel things was, I remember at Christmas, this is at primary school, they had an original Doctor Who black and white William Hartnell.
Yes.
And that was the only film they had. So every Christmas as a treat. God, it sounds like it's the dark ages. It was like the 70s. But we were little kids. And it would be then the Doctor Who would come, then the headmaster would dim the lights, the curtains would close. But they did that with videos, though, because they did have this is because I left school 83, a great big TV on a stand. Did they have one of those on a stand on wheels?
Yeah. Yeah.
And they would wheel it.
So big and heavy.
That was it. And they would wheel it from place to place. And so if you hadn't managed to get to watch a video, or even if it was just like the fact that it wasn't a lesson, even though it was on video, it was like a real treat to watch that.
Yeah. To have the curtains closed and the lights on. It was great. Anything but lessons.
And the other thing is that I remember my dad setting the video because the finger, how do I do this? The finger would go round in a circle. This one, is it that? No, both of the clunk. Oh, bloody thing doesn't record. It's absolutely useless. I don't know. And it was those were the days. What about video shops, though?
Video shops. Well, we had, now what do we say? We had a chain in Belfast called Extravision.
Right.
Extravision. And to prove that I've been here, it's been really good because people have been getting in touch. And thank you very much, everybody, for your feedback and whatever. And Margaret, how are you, Margaret? Margaret says, I met you once at an Extravision in Carryduff. And this would be absolutely true. So it was.
Were you the one that was going for the top shelf stuff at the time? She was just pleased you never saw me in here.
I was talking to Dean, our producer, about this earlier, and I said I have no recollection of top shelf stuff. I mean, I think Belfast and Northern Ireland being what it is, I think it would have been a very puritanical place, and I'm not sure they'd have been granted a license to anything particularly saucy or minxy.
Well, I remember in the early 80s is that there was a load of like fraternity films that were set in the 60s. Animal House was one. You ever see Animal House? One of the funniest films ever.
No, but those films all bored me. They really, like
King Frat.
Porky's.
Yeah, Porky's. And Porky's too. See, as a teenager,
never interested.
Loved all that because it was a bit saucy, you see. So even then you didn't watch that and you were slightly titillated as a young man?
No, that just wasn't my scene. My scene remains exactly the same today as it was then, which was action adventure films, thrillers.
Right.
Things that had, anything with Schwarzenegger or Stallone in it or whatever was super for me. And when I look back there, I was just trying to think what were the films that you would have.
Death Wish was one. I remember Death Wish was
Yeah.
big at the video shop.
Yeah.
There was the thing is there was a lot of 60s. There was all these 60s. There was The Wanderers. Did you ever see The Wanderers, which is about the gang in the 60s? That was not your scene?
No,
Because it had
didn't
a great soundtrack, and that's where I heard the Four Seasons and
Why would you
Lee
be in
Dorsey.
the 80s renting 60s films?
Well, they were 80s films, but they were set in the 60s. So there was a lot of films like that that were a bit violent, a bit saucy, had great music in them, and these were in the early 80s. And
No,
the
what
one
I was thinking of in the 80s, things that epitomized the 80s, like Alien.
yeah.
Alien. I mean,
See,
was something that was of its time. That was different, very, very different to I think the first Alien film was in 1979, and then there was another one, the 80s, before they all really began to take off. But and do you know what I really remember in the 80s? An American Werewolf in London.
Yes. Jenny
that was
Agutter.
scary.
Jenny Agutter.
You would have used video shops to rent scary films.
Yes. Well, we've had quite a few people that have, haven't we, that rented scary films? Love choosing a horror movie. Still got my laminated Blockbuster membership card too. Keeping hold of that just in case it comes back. The little post box you had to post the return videos in. See, that came a little bit later, I think. Never got a late return fine either. Love choosing the snacks, going home all ready for a great night. Miss that so much because there's so much choice now. Is that at least when there was the video shop that we had, the first one, it was almost like it was just a general convenience store, and they started doing videos, and then they'd have a couple, then they'd have a couple more. So you would see the title, and then they'd go out the back, but they didn't have that many. And Rocky was the first one I remember we ever rented.
Oh, yeah. And then, see, the thing is, you would have rented your video and then you would have needed your snacks and your treats and things to go on top of that. But I reckon I got horror films. A lot of people my age would got horror films at the time because when you had a girlfriend, it would be great if she was frightened by them and she would need to cuddle you.
Yeah.
She'd hold on tight during An American Werewolf in London.
But I always found that I was the one that was frightened in those situations. So it happened with It's a Wonderful Life. I remember watching because I wanted to avoid being upset. So I spent the last half an hour of A Wonderful Life looking on the top of the TV, looking at a poster on the wall, pretending I'm going, it's okay. And I didn't take any of it in. And then when she'd gone, I watched it on my own and cried my eyes out.
But it's a happy ending. It's a Wonderful Life.
I know, but it's a happy, sad ending. You know, it's like, it's still a moving sort of film, isn't it?
What was the little girl called? Lulu or something under the...
Zuzu.
Zuzu. Yeah.
Did I tell you about her scarf that I have?
No.
Her name, she was also in another one of your favorite films, which was The Bishop's Wife.
Oh,
she was the little girl in The Bishop's Wife, Cary Grant and
David Niven.
And I interviewed her once, and she came into the studio, and she left. She had this black, lovely scarf, and it was cashmere scarf, and she'd left it in the studio. And this is probably about 15 years ago. I still have the scarf. I still use the scarf. It was too late, so I couldn't return it to her. But I kept the scarf, so I've got Zuzu's scarf.
Stalker.
I don't think that's fair. It was only because I stole it, but it wasn't stalking. It was just that she left it on the side.
When I think back at films that really made a difference and really just were super. There was a film in the 90s called The American President.
Yeah.
And it was Michael Douglas and Annette Bening.
Yep.
And it's a beautiful love story. And if you haven't seen it, folks, I really would recommend this to you, The American President. And basically, he's the president, his wife dies, and it's very tragic. But anyway, 6 months later, so he starts dating a woman who works for him, and it's a scandal. It's a total scandal. But he's running for re-election, and I forget who the actor was who was up against him. But anyway, he kept saying, my name's Paul Coit, and I'm standing for president, and he would do this. This was his punchline all the time. And anyway, Michael Douglas gives this speech. he's pushed to the brink. He's criticized for dating this woman and whatever. Oh gosh, it makes me cry even thinking about it. But he gives
See,
this,
I've seen it, but I don't remember any of this.
oh,
I don't remember any of it.
speech. If I could give one speech in my life, it would be like that.
Yeah.
Basically, he talks about I have been the president of this country. I've been proud to serve this country, and I've made one mistake. And he talks about how he loved two. Oh, it's very sad.
Oh, Eamon, no.
He's loved two women in his life, and one died. But his punchline is, whatever his name is the president. I am Michael Douglas, and I am the president. And
yes,
and that's you want to stand up and
wow,
hear that. But I find it's the most uplifting, beautiful love story of a film. It's lovely.
Oh, listen to you. That's so sweet. I'm gonna hear that. I
sucker for sentimentality, really.
You are. I remember interviewing him for when the film came out.
Michael Douglas.
Yeah.
Well,
And he's one of the things I most remember. I don't remember anything about the interview. I remember anything, but I do remember going to the door, knocking on the door, and he opened the door, and I said, "Hello, I'm Paul," and he said, "Hi, I'm Michael," and I thought, I know you are, but isn't that a nice touch?
It's a nice touch. And the thing about him not being typical of whether it's Michael Douglas or whether it is, what's his name? Mission Impossible. What's his name?
Tom Cruise.
Tom Cruise or any of them. They're all small. Mel Gibson.
Yes.
Really are tiny.
Yeah,
They're tiny.
They are.
And I don't know if you noticed when you met Michael Douglas and you're standing up beside him.
Yes. I was going to say that.
Over him. Yeah.
Because I'm 6'5". So he must have been 5'2". He was small, and I was amazed by that.
But a great actor.
Who else is there? Dustin Hoffman is not a tall man.
Yeah.
So you got Cruise, Hoffman, Douglas. Mm-hmm. John Wayne was only 4'10".
That'll be the day.
That'll be the day.
Yeah, which is from the film The Searchers, and made famous by
Buddy Holly.
That'll be the day
yes.
when you say goodbye. So he
which we did, didn't we, in the episode before last?
Yeah. So he did the song "That'll Be the Day" in tribute to the Duke in the film The Searchers.
And if you listen to our episode with Ray Winston, we've put the Duke with you, and I'll be honest with you, you're my pal, and I'm not going to blow smoke up your ass, but I couldn't tell the difference between the two, quite frankly.
Now, Ray Winston's not small.
He's not. No, he's proper size. Why do you think, though, with actors and famous actors being small, is it like a small man thing that I'm going to show you? No. I was bullied at school. No. Well, why then? Why so many small actors?
It's dimensions. It's how the camera sees things. So people sometimes look at me and they think he's somewhat big, he's somewhat overweight or whatever. And as you know, that's
I know you're not. No,
not true.
You're what, 10 stone? Yeah.
But the point is that if you're in any way seen to be outside the norm, it does exaggerate your height and your size and various things like that. So they simply choose people who are smaller because they can adapt more to the screen and what goes on around them. Yeah.
Is that why whenever I see myself on TV, my hairline, which is actually just slightly above my eyebrows, seems to be extended? Is it the lights? Is that what it is? Because I can't understand why that is.
No.
Okay. Listen, we've got more. Who else have we heard from? We've got loads. Lorraine has said Pretty Woman. Yeah, Pretty Woman. I saw that once when it came out. I don't think I ever saw it again.
Well, you see, do you not...
So you like a romantic film, so you probably like that one, right?
Yeah. Do you not think... I mean, you asked me what type of films I would have rented from the video shop. Yeah. And always the same with me, action adventure, Stallone, the Rocky films, that sort of thing would have been for me. But you, as a man, tend to watch romantic comedies and romance films simply to keep the lady in your life happy.
Sure.
I would say.
Yeah.
Because it wouldn't be my choice.
A rom-com. Yeah.
Yeah. But if it means a lot to your other half, then why not?
Brando, is this actually saying that I want Brando, I like Brando films, or is this someone called Brando? because that's impressive if your name is Brando.
I think that's his name.
Love to be called Brando. I still go movie shopping at HMV. I own every film. From Michael Caine to Paul Newman, my favorite genre is crime and western. I tell you, we could have a good viewing night with Brando. That would be great. But if there's a
Michael
difference.
Caine, I just want to say, with Michael
Yes.
Caine, the film you've got to mention all the time is Zulu, which is not crime or western. Well, I suppose you could interpret it whatever way you want, but that is
True story as well.
Superb film.
Rorke's Drift, 1879.
Yeah.
So there's the films for me for Michael Caine. Love Zulu, love the Ipcress File,
Yeah.
which is great, and then The Funeral in Berlin after that, because a lot of it, I love the style of it, that 60s style, and also Alfie as well, which they remade with Jude Law, which I don't know why they bothered, because that's a perfect piece of work, and that was when he really then took off, didn't he? Did you hear about how he found out when he made his name? Because he'd been acting for quite a few years, and he wasn't young anymore. He was heading towards 30, I think. And he read for Zulu, but he read for the Cockney character, which suited him better.
Mm-hmm.
And I think it was Cy Enfield was the director, and he said, and it was in his book, and he said this, and this is what Michael Caine said, and I thought it was so perfect. He said, I walked away and went into that normal numb mode, which meant it's another one I've not got, because they said, sorry, you're not right for it. And he said, as I was walking away, they went, hang on, blonde-haired, tall, do you do accents? And he said, we've been in rep. Could you do posh?
Yeah.
And so then he got the Colonel Bromhead role, and that it's everything is a matter of luck. Something happens, doesn't it? Somewhere along the way. We did this with Glenn Hoddle, but something happens along the way where you find the route that you're supposed to go. It's almost like something pushes in you that direction.
Well, his mum pushed him quite a lot, Mrs. Micklethwaite, and she was a char lady. She was a cleaner. And his mum, he used to say to his mum, Mum, come on, I've made it and I earned millions of pounds and whatever. Need to do this anymore. And she says, well, what would I do? I'd be really bored if I didn't do this. Yeah. And she was the char lady with another woman whose name I can't remember. But anyway, but her son, she said, what does your son do? And she said, my son's famous. My son's a famous singer. And it turned out that her son was Adam Faith.
No.
Yeah.
Really?
Yeah. And so the two mums worked together. They had two famous sons, but no one knew who their sons were because the sons had different names than the parents.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Morris Micklewhite and Terry Nellums.
Could be right, my friend.
I think.
Right. Yeah, well done.
I think was Adam Faith. Terry Nellums.
Mm-hmm.
Right, back to the videos. What else have we got? Nathan, love looking at the big box covers. See, the thing is, you don't own, now if you download stuff, you pay for it and it says own it, but you don't feel as if you really own it when it's in the cloud, do you? Because the box, it's all about,
totally
like
agree.
records is the same.
Yeah.
So you kind of don't really own it.
Well, when I was in my 20s, 30s, I honestly, every week I would go to HMV or R Price and I would buy either a CD or it wasn't a VHS. I had massive collections because I had that sort of personality that I wanted to collect. I wanted to have these things. And I was such a fan of various movies, Westerns being, probably big genre that I liked. And then I would collect a lot of black and white stuff, a lot of really, good classical stuff and whatever. And when that all stopped, I still have that stuff or it was thrown out or whatever. But it was a complete void in my life. Complete void.
What film have you seen more than anything else?
There's an Irish film directed by John Ford, starring John Wayne and Maureen O'Hara.
Quiet Man, is that?
Quiet Man.
Yeah.
Quiet Man, which is a beautiful film, a beautiful sentimental Irish film. And he's a boxer and he comes back to the homestead in Ireland to claim the rundown farm. And Maureen O'Hara's, she's there and he fancies her and whatever. And she plays very hard to get. And it's very, very funny. And it's full of religion. And if you're Irish, it's very relevant. And there's a lovely scene. Barry Fitzgerald is this matchmaker. So he sits between them, and he brings them out in a cart, horse and cart, and they can sit in the back and hold hands, but that's all they can do. And he says, no, you won't be touching the lady. You won't be touching the lady. That's not allowed. And he said, I wouldn't touch the lady. and he says, oh, well, I saw you coming out of chapel this morning. And he holds his hand with the holy water in it so that she can dip her hand into his hand and bless herself as she's leaving.
That old one. Yeah.
And he says, I saw you this morning. And he says, but I only said good morning to her. And he said, but it was good night you had on your mind. And it was a beautiful film. It has the longest fight scene in cinematic history between John Wayne and Victor McLaglen. It's 17 minutes long or so, the fight.
Yeah. And that took over from, what was the one with Alan Ladd that had the long fight scene? I know you don't like Alan Ladd. Is that right? This film you didn't like?
Adam Ladd was a complete midget.
And by the way, another very small fella. Alan Ladd. Yeah.
That's what I said to you. So what they used to do with Alan Ladd was they would put his leading ladies in trenches. So he would stand there, and the leading lady would have to be up to her ankles or so in a trench.
Surely a box would be easier than digging a trench, wouldn't it? Did they not think of putting her on a frickin' box? We're going to dig it. Yeah, because
that's how they did it.
There have been actors in the past. I'm trying to think. There was, again, who were slightly shorter that would not have actresses. Who was it? You know what? I'm going to end up libeling someone anyway. But there was who said
smaller men who wouldn't have a taller woman. Playing opposite. Yeah,
absolutely. Yeah, they would not agree. They would not agree to that at all.
Mm-hmm.
Right, a few more I've got here. Tuesday night was video night. Now this is one of my favorites here. Tuesday night was video night, and that was when I was introduced to Peter Sellers. Very complicated character, but just a great actor. And the Pink Panther. That's when I realized I'd inherited my dad's sense of humor, fantastic memories. Now, that is a really good point, because there were films, and this is Louise, that there's things where you connect with your parents. One of those is, with my dad, was football, and the other one is with the stupid sense of humor that we shared, because we loved stuff like that as well. So there are things that you'd always watch together. And that was one of those.
It's interesting listening to Louise saying Tuesday night was video night.
Yeah.
I find that unusual, because what happened with video stores was that they redefined our viewing habits. So whereas on a Saturday night we'd all watch the Generation Game or whatever, and things would change that probably Friday, Saturday and Sunday, instead of watching the shows that dominated those evenings, people began to set their own viewing agenda. And video stores decided or determined that people would, have different viewing habits on those nights. And now I'm not sure we do have viewing habits anymore. I think because streaming means we just watch. We all end up watching the same programs. But if I say to you, have you seen Mobland? And you'll say, no, I haven't seen that yet, but I'll get round to it. We don't all watch it at the same time, same place, whatever. But that's the way it is now.
I watch less now, film-wise, than I ever did before, because there's so much choice. And then I just think, I don't know what to go to. And then I end up not doing it. Whereas probably years ago, when there was less choice, I'd be more likely to go, well, because that's what there is, and do that.
I tell you what, I mean, if you set a quiz here and you asked me movie questions, I could do the 1940s, the 1950s, the 1960s, 70s, into the 80s. And after that, then I'm in trouble. I'm in trouble naming names and who starred in certain things and whatever. Because there are so many films nowadays. You can watch 3 or 4 things on your streaming channel during the week, and I bet you'll never remember the title of anything.
Oh, yeah.
There was that weird thing on, and then Tom Hardy was in it, and it was, what was it called? People just remember, and the titles aren't important enough anymore for us to log and say, that's a great film. So you're asking me, I'm naming you a film from the 1950s or so, The Quiet Man. You couldn't do that. I don't think you'll be able to do that 50 years from now.
And it's like Oscar-winning films. You could say I remember 76 was Rocky. I remember 77, the Star Wars and Annie Hall. But the recent ones, I wouldn't know. You know the oldest film star I ever met?
Who?
Douglas Fairbanks Jr.
Gosh.
Douglas Fairbanks Jr., this is a story. And I remember we did back in sort of the 90s, and radio stations, they'd send you out to Disney, and Disney would pay you do your radio show live from there, and it was more difficult to do. There was an online then, and they do it by satellite and everything. You do it live from there, and they would have famous people there. So I remember Douglas Fairbanks. They said, "Would you interview Douglas Fairbanks?" And they said, "On it, yeah, but absolutely love to speak to him." Old swashbuckler, but they say, "We'll try and get Disney. You've got to try and mention Disney somehow in what you're doing." So I thought, I know what I'll do. So met him. He's very nice, very frail gentleman, and he can't have had too much long left, but bless him. And I said, Mr. Fairbanks Jr., you've been acting nearly as long as Mickey Mouse. Did you ever work together? Did you ever do a film together? What do you think he said back to me?
I bet you said yes.
He said, no. He's just a cartoon character. He's not real, you know.
That's the last thing you can say, because you have to pretend they're all real.
No. And I'm going, and there's this woman from Disney going, no, she's going, oh, no, that's ridiculous. So I went, oh, okay. So that was all I ever remember, me and Douglas Fairbanks Jr.
Dear. So who was Douglas Fairbanks Sr.?
He was a film star as well, though, wasn't he?
Is he the swashbuckler?
I think they both did swashbuckling, didn't they? There was Douglas Fairbanks, and Douglas Fairbanks Jr. had a little pencil thin stuff. But did they do the same thing? I think the dad probably worked with Mickey Mouse.
Maybe. That's where you went wrong.
That's where I went wrong. And when it comes to film stars, the nicest film star you ever met was who?
Oh, no, that's interesting. Oh, I know the answer to that.
Okay.
John Travolta.
Oh, really?
Yeah, John Travolta. You could say Tom Hanks.
I would go with Tom Hanks personally.
Really?
Yeah, a couple of times. Very nice.
But nobody's going to beat me with John Travolta. Nicest man.
Why? Why was
I had a producer with me, and we were filming in a hotel room.
Yeah.
And this girl said to me, "Oh, Eamon, one thing I've always wanted in life, just one thing, to have a photograph taken with John Travolta. Oh my God.
Yeah.
We're not allowed to do photographs." I said, just leave it with me. So anyway, we go in, and I said, "John, before we begin, this girl, she's producing this today only on the basis that it was you. She's absolutely thrilled. You wouldn't." And then these three people pounced on me. "You can't have this. You can't have a picture. You can't do this. You can't do that." And I said, "Look, it's the same amount of time. We've got 10 minutes. Just let the picture happen." And he stepped in and he said, "Hey, not a problem. Let's do the picture." And not only that, but he gave us extra time doing it. And he was absolutely delightful. And then these PR people, they just put on with it. It was lovely. And also I remember now, sorry, you're making me think, James Bond's, Pierce Brosnan.
Yep. Loved him.
Nicest man, but by far a man who I became personally friendly with, and I couldn't understand it because he was my Bond when I was young, and it was just unbelievable, was Roger Moore.
Yeah, I wish I'd known you when RogerOre was alive. God.
Would
you have introduced me to Roger Moore, or would you have kept me away from him?
We went to football together.
Oh.
We went to restaurants together.
That's mad.
I was sitting in a restaurant one day, an Italian restaurant, and this voice came in my ear, and he said, "My daughter, for some strange reason, fancies you. And I want you to know that if you ever lay a hand on her, I'll kneecap you." He said, "And I know people who can do it." And I looked round, and it's Roger Moore with a cigar.
Wow.
And
wow.
the nicest, most approachable man, to the point was, the greatest honor, I was one of 120 or so people invited to his memorial service at the end. Family, just a friend, delightful man. And what a handsome looking man.
Oh.
Handsome looking man.
And really, and a sense of humor and would laugh at himself and everything. I mean,
Absolutely.
but that's the impression I always got of Roger Moore.
Absolutely, and sort of really didn't believe in his own ability or whatever. But very popular man, very good, and in many ways, Pierce Brosnan's the same. And it's about being Irish. I mean, again, faced with that situation that you said you're told you've got 5 minutes with Mr. Brosnan, so you sit down and you start talking, and he goes, "Hey, where are you from? Where are you from?" And his accent begins to become very Irish with it. And you tell him where you're from, and he said, "Were you taught by the Christian Brothers, were you? Because I was taught by the Christian Brothers." And where would he live in London? I said, "I live in Fulham." He said, "I used to go to the cinema in Fulham." And I said, "I saw my first James Bond film there," and da-da-da, and just went into a load of talking where basically he told his PR people, keep quiet. He's enjoying the conversation with me. Really, really nice man.
I was almost like the fluffer for film companies. They used to, because they knew I'd have a laugh with the talent. They would put me in first to try and get them in a good mood.
Yes.
But sometimes I remember Mel Gibson was one of the weirdest characters. He was sat there and he had his entourage, and the thing is, he would make a joke, but he would look at them. Or if I made a joke, he would look at them and not look at me. And I still remember him saying, he's then started trying to make jokes, and he was going, he goes, "Yeah, just came back from the Spice Islands." And I went, "Did you?" And he went, No, you're supposed to say, what is it? What is that? I can remember now. What is the joke? Oh my God, Eamon, I can't remember what the joke is. What is it? Jakarta? No, took my wife to the Spice Islands, Jakarta. No. And then he started doing all those. And every time I missed it, and he was looking over his papers going, And then Eddie Murphy was another one, just had this entourage.
Yeah.
Would sit and they would perform for the entourage while you're standing there. And it was really bizarre. But they just want to be, because they have to do the same questions. They don't really want to talk about the film, because that's what they're there to do, is promote the film. It doesn't matter to them. They're not bothered about talking about the film. They prefer to do something which is much more fun.
The worst person for that, and made it quite clear she didn't want to talk about the film, or especially to me, was Meg Ryan. And for ages, I had to live with the fact that I said, Meg Ryan is completely horrible. And people go, no, she's not. Until she was interviewed by Michael Parkinson on air.
Yeah.
And she wouldn't answer any of his questions. And he basically said, "If you were me, Miss Ryan, what would you do with this interview now?" And she said, "Wind it up." He said, "Exactly. Thank you very much indeed. Good night. Thank you for watching, whatever. And he wound her up. And she, I actually believe, has got some sort of phobia about being interviewed. And, it's part of their contract that they have to be interviewed to publicize film.
So you spoke to her?
Yeah.
So how did you find her?
Terrible.
Oh, really? Same with you?
Just really, really ghastly. I mean, we sat in the room with a phone in it, and when her people didn't like what was being asked, they would ring the phone. She would pick the phone up.
There's no one there.
It's just unbelievable.
I always know. And me and Roland Rivron used to do a show together, and we went in and interviewed Richard Dreyfuss.
Yeah.
Jaws, Close Encounters. It was a film called Mr. Holland's Opus, I remember, that he was nominated. And he didn't really want to play. I remember he just...
Mr. Holland was the conductor, wasn't he?
Yes, that's right. Yeah. And he was not very friendly, because the thing is, we used to find ourselves giggling, and it probably would misbehaving anyway. Yeah. But he was, and I remember saying, "Could you just do this?" And we went, "No, guys, you've had your fun. It's over now." We walk away, and just didn't find him terribly funny.
It doesn't have to be that way.
Doesn't have to be easier, wouldn't it?
Yeah.
Sometimes it's easier to be nice than it is to act like that. There's too many of those.
It is amazing to sit in the room with someone who is so famous, or maybe a hero of yours or whatever. Actually sit and say, "I'm actually talking to John Travolta." And, you can remember going to see him in 1979 in Saturday Night Fever and Grease and all those sort of things. And then you're sitting in the room with them. And that's a surreal feeling, and I never got over that really with Roger Moore, to realize that Roger Moore couldn't shake off the fact that he had star quality. He was a star. He just had it. And that's just always the way that I saw him.
But listen, to finish with, you may not know this, but John Travolta still says that about When He Met You. He still says the same thing. When I look at Danny Zuko, I'm thinking Holmes. I recognize it straight away. It's so obvious.
You're saying who? What?
I don't think so. I don't think so. Well, look, thank you for all the messages that we're getting, and especially for all the video ones that we've had in as well, because so many people with all their video messages. We did go off a little bit to talk about films, but Johnny, I think you could send a message to Pierce Brosnan, because I think Pierce would enjoy coming on here.
Well, my Pierce the gangster now in Mobland.
Yeah, that's true.
You don't want to mess with him now, do you?
Yeah.
You want to do that.
Mark says, I rented The Witches. I was the youngest of 5. My siblings used my name on one card so they could return the videos late and not pay a fee. That's unfortunate.
Very annoying to lose your card. Very
I know. Jolene. So when DVD players first came out, my nan bought me a portable DVD player for my 8th birthday. She bought me 2 DVDs, which were on offer. The first was Jungle Book and the next one was East is East. That's a very strange pairing, really, the two. And what else we got? Pretty Woman, Top Gun, Dirty Dancing, Ghost, Stella.
Top Gun, yeah.
Troop Beverly Hills. Don't remember that.
You know what, I just want to say, when we're talking about film stars, and you mentioned Top Gun there, and you're going back to the 80s and whatever, Tom Cruise, I hear different reports. I've never met Tom Cruise. I hear different reports that, it's a bit strange sometimes or whatever. What a film star he is.
Is a film star. Yeah.
His talent, his ability as a producer, as a director, as an actor, and those Mission Impossible films, they are art. Absolutely incredible. What he did to that franchise, turning that around, and even the music, the theme music they have for that, doom 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 doom, just incredible. And I do think
that wasn't his though, was it? That was the old Lalo Schifrin one. That was the original theme, wasn't it though?
Yeah, but that's exactly the same music that they use in the movie.
Yeah, but you're giving Tom Cruise the credit for the music.
No, I'm saying they had the music to play with. I'm not stupid.
Well, no, I'm just trying to make you sound like you're over. I don't want to give him the music.
I know exactly what it is, and I just think that he just turned that franchise. He breathed new life.
He did.
Into that franchise.
He did.
And I think he's absolutely incredible. And I'd say you find it tough to name a bad movie that Tom Cruise has made. And how many does he make a year? 1, 2? Incredible.
See, would you bother? Would you still do it if you were him?
I can see why he does do it, Paul. I can see why, if you love it that much and you're addicted to it that much, and really it sort of gets to a stage where there's nothing else in your life, what a way to be remembered. What a way. I mean, you're lucky if you were to make 15 movies in your lifetime. Gosh, I mean, how many has that guy made? Incredible.
Do you remember the first film? He was one of the first films was Endless Love. Do you remember the Diana Ross and like Endless Love? And he was one of the youngsters, one of the pals in there.
Part of the Endless Love.
Yeah. He was.
No, I don't know. I know the song. I don't know the film.
Yeah. I can't remember. Was it Brooke Shields? Can't remember. One of those early 80s films. Right, I think we've exhausted our supply for now, haven't we? Well, we could go on for 24 hours. We've got some wonderful guests joining us, which I'm really excited about, who want to come up and talk about things they like, because basically that's what we do, isn't it? It's all about stuff that we like, and you've got loads of stuff behind you that can see.
So we like videos, we like films, we like video shops as well. We like the treats that you got on a Saturday night.
Yeah.
Video shop as well. I think I'm going to go and watch one tonight. I might just get, fancy The Searchers maybe tonight.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah.
You going to do the lines?
Today.
That'll be I'm going to work on that. I'm going to work on
my friend.
It's good to see you. Follow us. Instagram. We're on there. Watch us on YouTube. We're on TikTok as well. All the socials, we're there. Things we like with Eamon and Paul. Thanks, Eamon. Have a lovely time.
Thanks for watching. Thanks for listening.
That's what I like.